Hello friends of plein air painting. My name is Peter Fisselberger and I would like to show you today how I paint a plein air sketch. Today I'm at the river Ybbs in Lower Austria. Beautiful day, it's about 12 to 13 degrees, almost no wind. Snow has gone about 2 weeks ago here, 3 weeks ago. Lovely day. For this sketch I'm using a limited palette of 2 yellows, 1 red and a blue and whites, of course. The yellows will be cadmium yellow, Indian yellow. Then I'll use cadmium red light and ultramarine blue plus titanium white. For the underpainting I use some raw umber. The panel here is already pre-primed. It has a grey acrylic prime on it, but I will anyhow use raw umber to get it a little warmer. Okay, I'd say let's start. Okay, so now there's the view. It's passing here with the mic cable. And now, even so it is already pre-primed, and I prefer a primed panel outside, especially when it's a bright day like today. And I also like to have a little bit of medium on the panel as well. So I will be using a little bit of raw umber and plenty of terps. And just give it another layer, more than a layer of wash of raw umber. I did a painting here already last week and I try to improve a little bit on my painting from last week as well and create a new one at the same time. And it doesn't matter at all if this layer is uniform or if you can see the marks. Because now, to get some of the medium away again, I will wipe it back just to keep it covered. I wipe it also here and a little bit also here. Alright. And in a little while I will have to turn this. I'm having the sun already on here. Okay, just a little bit. Let me see if this is still alright. Yeah. Okay. Then for the initial painting I'm always using a viewfinder. I'll gauge my panel and off we go. Alright. The first thing to put on, which isn't a big factor today, is the horizon line, the eye height in the landscape I'm looking at. And since I'm standing on the water and I'm 180, so my eyes are about 175 above the water, so my eye line will be on the shore, just on the other side of the river. And I want to have it just above the center of the panel. So just put this very lightly in, because this isn't, it's just a construction line. It isn't a line that will stay in the painting after. Now I'm looking at the distant shore of the river, and it goes at an angle from this line about here. I need a little more paint. And everything in this early stage is very easy to change, so it is actually the time to make a very relaxed sketch, initial sketch of the basic lines, the basic angles. This bit. And in this stage I try to get in my very, very basic elements of the painting, which later on I will will create variety and texture and so on. So this is my side of the river. Then I'm also having in the picture a bit of this bank of gravel I'm standing on. And in a sketch like this outside, I'm not trying to change too much of what I'm seeing in front of me. Maybe omitting some stuff I'm not feeling is enhancing my painting, but for the rest, I try to paint pretty much what I'm seeing. There's the trees, the first trees, which are actually in the foreground, but blocking the view on the background there. And this is that hill on the other side. Which then runs in here. I might break that up just a little bit in order not to lead out of the painting just with a line here. Then anyhow there are trees on the other bank. That helps me quite a bit, which are just as high as the tops of the trees on here. Okay, so here we go. And it's all just indications, really. It's no details. It's just to get a feeling for what I'm seeing. So now this tree is here. And this tree over here is surely one of my main acts in the foreground, because it goes all the way through the painting out on top. Okay. It's actually quite good every now and then and look through the phone on my painting to just see how it looks. Because after a while you get so involved with what you're painting that it gets difficult to see drawing mistakes or poor design choices maybe. It comes through here again. There's some very high, don't ask me, plants that are all dry but still blocking the view up there. Okay, then very important part, there is some reflections in the water here that are darker than the water, and that connects up here. Since this is a painting with the sun, and the sun is moving further behind me all the time, and I choose usually here, or most of the times, I paint against the sun here on the river because I like to get the reflections on the water of the sun. But today is quite a misty day, and so the colors are grayed out quite a bit towards the sun, and I'm not going for that today, but I rather have clean colors. To use with. Okay, that's not too bad. Might get rid of this up there. So then there are some more trees up there. I go behind here, and a further hill behind here. I'm just darkening in the background here as well. Okay, this bank comes up here and stays actually visible all the way around here, and there are some darks in there that I will start to indicate. I try to indicate my darks as early as possible, because once you go in with color and you get carried away, you might miss some of them, and it's very difficult once white is involved. You get your darks back in there. Okay, so that's for a very basic underpainting. And I'm actually not losing much more time on that. I think it looks quite alright. It is also always a very good idea to actually make a little break, step away from your painting, probably have a drink, sit down. If you're standing, stand up. If you're sitting, and come back with a slightly fresher eye, just to make sure you haven't made any basic drawing mistakes or matching up edges. Particular important are to keep these lines away from the corners. It is very unhelpful if you have a line that goes right out the corner over here. So I stay quite well up here and I try to come down here. I always take care of this. Okay, I forgot some darks in here. I guess there's still some brown grass. And this will be very important to create a foreground with some darks in it. Okay, so since my main interest today on this painting is the water and the sky, or let's say it this way, the water is my interest, but the sky of course influences the color of the water, since it is a reflection. It has reflections of the sky, let's put it this way. So the first color I mix is a blue, and I will keep a darker version for the water and a lighter version for the sky. And there also the viewfinder is a very good help, since with this opening you can judge local color. And it is very good to have a look and see the difference between the water and the sky. The water is obviously darker, it's less saturated, but even the sky, even if it's a beautiful day with a blue sky, isn't highly saturated today. And for the little part of sky I have, the darkening will be minimal, but I still will try to indicate it. Okay, so I know for sure I need white. Let me take this away and just put a little bit in there. Then, as I said before, I'm using ultramarine blue. And for a slightly larger sketch than this one, which is 40 by 30 centimeters, it needs a fair amount of paint, and since white will be the sky and the river, I rather start to mix more color right away to have it then in all faces of the painting if I need some more. Okay. They also use some raw amber in the water, which is a kind of red anyways. And the color I particularly like for the water is Indian yellow. It gives it a very nice greyish green hue, which is just fantastic. This is maybe a little bit too grey, but I will keep it because I need this kind of greys anyways. You see, when you get a little blue in, this works quite well. Okay, that's one color done. And now for the sky. That's maybe not too bad. Okay, now let me get the brush. Slightly larger brush. I try to keep this edge quite loose and soft. And I leave already the tree trunks out. Okay, the sky comes down here quite a bit. Okay, see this. All right. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. But even at this stage, it isn't really nothing you have to commit to yet. It still can be changed. Now I try to get a little bit of depth into the sky and choose a direction. And now I get a little darker. The sky upwards gets a little darker, and it's too dark, but I will use it anyways. And a little purpler. Okay. Okay. Very easy to blend. Okay. Yeah, it looks like the blue sky. Then down to the water. Clean my brush, since I have quite some white in my paint for the sky, and start indicate the water. Okay, so here's my dark. Which probably is a little greener. Oh, I can get this a little later. As I wanted. Now I start to get a little better brush, because this brush is already quite worked out, so it is good for larger shapes, but now I want to start to get the waves and a little structure into the water, and so a better shaped brush is certainly better. All right, then okay, now we got some green. This also in the water, especially in the lighter areas, it is good to start to indicate the darker bits of these little ripples and waves, because otherwise it is quite difficult to get it back in. This is the reflection along the riverbank. All right. Now, Okay, then here as well I try to alternate my brush strokes and overpaint some of this color and leave other of this darker color laid in earlier to create a variety straight on the panel without having to mix actually too many tones on the palette itself. It's a little more color now. Okay, now here in the foreground it gets really nice and light. This might be a little bit too saturated, but I still use a bit, which I can later cover and just let a little bit show through, which creates very interesting effects. This is really still the underpainting. Even some canvas can still show through, which might be ripples that catch the light from behind me. I try not to let too light bits here on the edge, because it would attract the eye of the viewer on the edge, and I don't really want them to stay or to go to the edge, because there's something there. That attracts the eye. Okay, so now I will need to concentrate a little bit on the hill now, which is a greenish gray. It's still a little darker than the water. It surely has a little bit of blue in it. And I will use a little bit of yellow. And I actually would like to keep it quite transparent for the start. Okay, the reflections are coming around again already. Okay, there we go. Because it's really irritating, especially in the beginning when you lay in your basic values and you have the sun just coming in from the side. It really makes it difficult to judge. I could have done this earlier, but I'm quite keen in the beginning to get the water in and set a tone rather than play with the grays. And it is easier now to find the right darkness as well. Now I'm using actually a little bit of the paint I used in the water. And I like to keep this background hill very loose. Not too loose that it attracts the eye, because it's okay. Now let's indicate the light. Now I'm using a little bit of Indian yellow in there as well. Okay, then there's on the hillside is a little bit of a area with grass visible, which I want to indicate as well, which is in here. Yeah, it's barely coming forward. I like to keep it nice and tight, so no highlights, no too light areas in there. It needs to stay one compact hillside in the background. Now here there's some trees right at the river, and they're catching already the light of the afternoon, and they basically paint themselves just with some upward strokes in a slightly, it isn't really lighter, but it's a greener tone. No whites here. Then here is a little sand bank, which I leave the whiting for to indicate. And I want to go in a little more again for the shadow on the water. Okay, there's some rocks up there. But I don't want any light areas here So when I said before, I'm not really changing anything, but I would alter, for example, if here would be a bright rock in the light, which is grayish white now, I would not put it in. Well, I actually didn't, because it would attract attention at the edge of the painting, which I really don't want to. Okay, let me have a look. It looks very nice and bright. Okay. So it's actually getting quite warm now here in the sun. Okay, now I also start to indicate some of the tree trunks in the background. Some are darker and some are lighter, which catch the light. And I start with the darker ones in the beginning. On this side as well. There isn't anything that really is standing out and coming forward, and that's the point why I'm not liking to make it stand out, because it would come forward and then it wouldn't show as a tree that's actually on the other side of the river. I just want to indicate some of these highlighted tree trunks. There we go. A little bit too light for over there. And as they go further away, I just darken them a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay, now there on the top. Maybe some highlights. Yeah, okay, that's it. Now I made them lighter rather than more saturated, so they still stay in the background. Also indicate these trees here up on the hilltop. Okay, the same here on this side. Just pull some of this sky's color in here. All right. Now, the foreground, which is relatively the most saturated part of the painting. Or relatively, I say, because of course now it's February and the colors themselves are not very saturated. But it will be more saturated than the background hills, for sure. This dry grass here on the riverbank is really bright, and on a sunny day as today it really reflects the sun. Anyhow, I start a little darker as I think it is. I need to create more contrasts, which means warmer. I try already to create some variety in there as well. Okay, let me see if this is better down here. All this grass is leaning this way because not so long ago it was all underwater and the water dragged all the grass blades with it. Except in here where it looks like it was, well, it is short. I'm not sure if some fish were feeding on it or it just was all dragged away. Okay, and then this bushy stuff there on the side, let's see. Yeah, that's more like it. Very nice. Dark red, a little dark on the bottom. And since this as well is no leaves, no nothing, it's just this dry grass, the stems are left, so they are quite easily painted just with some brush strokes. I just realized one thing. I wanna keep this edge a little clear. I need to take away a bit of this first tree here to indicate a little more this falling hill here. If you have some highlights, a good way as well is just is a good, yeah, like this. Just indicate them with the back of your brush. And the same is true for the thinner branches here in the background. Okay, now me clean this brush a little bit and let me fix this area in the sky before I forget. Yeah, that's more like it. Everything without getting too messy. And that's why it is good to have some blue paint on the side, so you can make these corrections without any problem. But this now is not. Now we just push this a little out again. Perfect. Even looks like a tree. Okay, now a little bit darker in the grass. Okay. Then let me work on these trees here in the foreground a little bit. So this is quite a massive tree. Okay. Continues on here, continues on here. Then on this side, a little bit of shadow. They're also seeing some darker bits in there, especially here near the roots. Then the same is true here. It's the water. Okay, but now I have to break up this edge a little bit every now and then. And a little dark as well. Okay, and here in the foreground, this little bush. There's quite some. Okay. Also this area actually lends itself for a bigger tree. There is a larger tree back there anyways. Well, very good. Let's use it for a tree. And I always like, as the branches get thinner, actually paint them in a dotted or broken line at least, so it isn't such a strong element that leads out of the painting. Because I don't want you to look at this tree and get right out of the top edge of my painting. I want you to come back. I want you to see these interesting marks and keep looking around in the painting. And this is the beauty of winter, when you can see still all the branches and all the little extensions in the end, which actually can be painted as a color altogether. It needs to be, of course, a mixture between the sky and some brown indication like that. Okay, now, I still had this bush in here. Okay, let me do this. And back there. And here I want to be a little darker, because I want to create like a barrier for the eye not to drop out here either. So I can even put some lines in, which leads me in rather than out. Well, that's quite a good start. Well, for this video, I just want to finish the foreground a little more, and then I think actually it's quite enough. And here with this little gravel and pebbles, it is enough to indicate the shadow. We know where the sun is coming from, so it's actually quite easy. And then just indicate some of the rocks. And then create a little bit of variation and maybe make one a little greener, bluer. And then some of the water actually comes in here between as well. Okay, which has a very nice reflection of the sky. So it comes along here. Maybe a little more blue. So there's lines. Okay, I'm surely gonna do some more work on this painting, but I'm gonna leave it here for now. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I try to answer everything. Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.